Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another episode of the Dental Talk. Today we have another special guest with us here today, who is here to talk about the ADC licensing exam. Today we have Dr. Rutaba Afreen with us here today, who graduated from Karachi Medical and Dental College in 2017. After which she moved to Australia and started studying for her ADC licensing exam. Currently, she is preparing for her ADC Part 2 exam alongside helping other dentists like her pass or help them with the ADC Part 1 exam preparation. She also runs a Facebook group along with her friends, link to which I'll be linking down below. And with that, I'll be moving. I could talk on about Dr. Rutba, but I think we'll just dive into the questions right away. How are you, Dr. Rutba? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How's everything going? Thank you so much for joining us here today. You took out time from
Oh,
your
it's
preparation.
okay.
I'm so thankful for that. With your permission, should we start the interview?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all good.
All right, perfect. Tell us a bit about yourself. We'll take you a bit back in time. Tell us a bit about yourself, how
Yeah.
you got into dentistry, and how was that journey through dental school, like those 4 years of dental school?
Honestly, it was like my mom's dream for me to
Okay.
pursue dentistry,
Yeah.
and I just like respected that decision. But once I got into that college, you know how hectic it is going through all those entry tests and everything. But then finally, I got into medical college,
Yeah.
and it was like a roller coaster ride, to be honest. And there were like good days, there were bad days. I learned a lot, and honestly, my tutors were very good. They were very helpful every time I asked them anything. So, like, yeah, it was a good journey, to be honest. And then after that, in 2017, I graduated. I finished my house job, and then I moved to Australia. And then over here, while I was still in Pakistan, in Karachi, I started doing my researches for actually each and every single uh, foreign program. I like researched a little bit about USA, about Canada, and then honestly, I found ADC to be the most suitable exam for me. And then I started preparing for that.
Perfect. All right, so we'll dive right in and start talking about the ADC exam. Let's talk about your journey to becoming an ADC licensed dentist. Take us through it. How many parts are there? Where must you take the exam? When did you start preparing for part one? How long did it take you? And what was your approach to the exam?
Well, to be honest, first thing first, the approach to the exam needs to be very, very, very positive, particularly for overseas dentists like us. The practice that we are normally doing over here in Australia, it's heaps different compared to what we are like, used to of practicing back home.
Yeah.
Mainly because over here it's a multicultural country. There are a lot of ethnic group over here, and you need to respect each and every ethnicity, and you need to know about them, right? In like let's say in Pakistan, where I am from, all I had to know was about Pakistanis, right? Here you need to know about a lot of different countries, so obviously that's like a more vast variety of dentistry getting practiced over here. Secondly, as far as the journey itself is concerned, it is a tough journey. It is draining. There are days when you will feel very low, very upset, and you just want to quit,
Yeah.
but it is doable. And that's what I say to each and every single person who talks to me, that it is a doable journey. It is hard, I agree, but it's not like impossible. As far as the steps are concerned, so the very first step is the initial assessment, in which what we have to do is that there is a website for ADC. If you want, I can send you guys the link for that, and you can just attach it with your session. So over there, you need to go and make an account for yourself, which is basically ADC Connect.
Yeah.
And from ADC Connect, then you start, like, you just go through their document folder, see what documents they request from you, and then just start uploading very good quality photographs of each and every single of those documents. All right. And then you just and there's a fee for that, obviously. And once you pay off the fee, the ADC receives the fee, they start with this initial assessment process. It generally takes between 4 to 6 weeks to get this whole assessment done. And sometimes they might even call the embassies in Pakistan and just to verify a few documents like your work experience and things like that.
Perfect.
And Once the initial assessment is done, you will receive an email from the ADC, and then you're eligible to sit for the part one exam, which is basically theoretical written exam.
Yeah.
And once you clear that part one written exam, then you're eligible to apply for the practical exam, which is part two.
All right, we
And
will stay on part
yeah,
one for now, and then we'll move on to part
yeah.
two. Where can you take the exam? Do you have to take it in Australia? Or can you take it in Pakistan or somewhere else as well?
Yeah, so for the part one exam, is taking place worldwide. There is a center in Pakistan as well, in Islamabad.
Oh, okay.
So you can go there and yeah, sit the exam over there. But for part two, you would need to be here in Australia, in Melbourne.
In
There's
Melbourne.
just one building.
Oh, all right. So when did you start preparing for part one, and how did you go about studying for the exam, and what study material did you use?
Honestly, as far as the part one is concerned, it depends on how long you have been away from dentistry, right? So when I applied for immigration to Australia, I came over here in 2019, but I couldn't get in until 2021. So
Yeah.
it was like a 2 years, almost like you can say like more than like because I graduated in 2017. So it was like around 3 to 4 years gap between that. So obviously I took a good whole 1 year to study, to practice, and after that I did. But if you're a fresh graduate, it's
Yeah.
like just been a couple of months, go for it. Just like prepare for 3 months, 4 months, and then you can just easily sit for this exam.
Understand. Understand. What study material did you use?
As far as the study material is concerned, so I honestly relied on all the Australian dental journals that I had with me,
Okay.
and all the books that are based on Australian dentistry, because the exam in even although it is a written exam and it is a theory based exam,
Yeah.
but the ADC, they expect you to think like a freshly graduate dentist,
Hmm.
and not just a simple fresh graduate dentist, they expect you to think like an Australian freshly
Really?
graduate dentist.
Australian
So
graduate.
for that, you need access to Australian dental journals, and some things from the British dental journals, they still count.
Yeah.
There are a couple of books that ADC do recommend. They are mentioned on their website as well. I can share the link of that as well, the handbook.
Perfect.
Secondly, I can share the link of those books as well. That's fine.
Perfect. That would be great. Well, I feel like that completely encompasses what part one holds and how you can actually go about preparing for
Yeah,
your part one. But once you pass part one, then comes the very difficult part of going for your
ex-
part two, which is the actual
exactly.
different part, difficult part. Tell us about the firstly, tell us about the outline of this exam, and then we can go ahead from that.
Okay, so the basic outline is for part one, like I just told you, it's just like written examination. You can just enroll in any courses, and they will help you. But please, guys, make sure there are a lot of scammers out there
Yeah.
who themselves are not here in Australia, leave alone part one, clearing it, and other stuff. They are still overseas, and then they are giving tutoring. They have not cleared their own exams,
Yeah.
and they are like, scamming people of money. So please be careful. Only a Australian qualified dentist who is actually practicing here would be able to help you out with that, or someone who has had experience. For part two is more clinically based. It has 3 sessions. That makes it more difficult. Firstly, they are looking for your technical work, in which there are like these fillings, crown cuttings, and the general dentistry tasks pretty
Yeah.
much.
Absolutely.
So they evaluate that, and other than that, they are also looking for communication.
Mm.
Because in Australia, communication matters a lot.
Yeah.
You might be a good dentist, but if you don't know how to communicate with a patient,
Yeah.
they're not going to pass you. So they're like basically few stations for communication OSCEs, in which what they do is an examiner is sitting right across from you, and they are doing a role play with you, in which they become a patient,
Understandable.
and they just want to see how, and they are like different groups of patients, an angry patient, a sad patient, and things like that. Sometimes it's a kid who is not cooperative, and
Oh,
they're just seeing how well you are able to manage a patient with a different mood or a different problem, anxiety issues, let's say, or an angry patient who wants money back, or someone who wants to sue you.
Perfect.
So how can you tackle those criteria? That's what they're actually looking at. So there's communication OSCE, and then there are these technical tasks, and then the most important part that most of the overseas dentists fail is infection control.
Okay. I would
Yeah.
expect them to fail the clinical part, but infection control. Wow. Okay.
Yes. There, I have seen a lot of candidates in my journey of this. Like, it's been almost like 4 years since I've been in this journey. And I have seen so many candidates, they have passed all their technicals. Technicals are never an issue for overseas dentists. Communication is a little bit, but with a little bit of practice, you do overcome that.
Okay.
I have seen people fail infection control, and because of that, they have failed the whole part two exam a couple of times, not once, but many times.
That's actually pretty interesting. But I would like to
Yeah.
talk about the clinical exam first. The
Yeah.
clinical part, the technical part. How difficult is that? Because there's this aura built around ADC that it's the most difficult licensing exam to pass in the world. So if you can pass that, you're a pretty good dentist naturally. But how difficult is it actually to pass the clinical part of the exam, and how do you prepare for that specific part?
Yeah. So look, like I said before, ADC is a tough journey. I agree, but it's doable. I have seen people pass from their first attempts in part two and part one. There have been people who have cleared both their exams in just 6 months' time.
Hmm.
I even know people like that. So it all honestly depends on you. It requires a lot of dedication, a lot of hard work, but it is doable. As far as the preparation is concerned, so like the way I do it is that I took a course from someone for my technical task, because it has been actually a while since I didn't pursue dentistry at all, especially ever since I moved to Australia in 2019. So obviously there was a big gap, so I just took a technical course for normally people like they take 2 weeks technical course,
Yeah.
and that's enough. And after that, when I came back home, I practice at least minimum 8 to 10 hours a day. All the tasks that are normally expected you to be
What are
fulfilling
these
in
tasks
ADC
like?
exam.
Could you just go over them briefly?
Yeah, so there is a crown prep.
Sound
So there are like a couple of like crown prep. They are going to give you either an incisor or canine or a molar, and then you have to make a provisional crown of that crown prep as well. Yes, because over here, compared to other parts of the world, you don't just leave a patient with a sensitive crown prep. You need to give something temporary so he doesn't feel any sensitivity in that meantime, right? And that needs to be very perfect. No marginal leakage stuff, like there's a like whole criteria for that. I don't want to go into details of that.
Yeah.
And then there are fillings. So here in Australia, amalgam is still an acceptable filling,
Okay.
so they do expect you to know good amalgam. And then there is a composite task as well, in which you are expected to do either an anterior crown or anterior composite filling or a posterior composite filling. Other than that, there's an endo only excess cavity preparation, and then there's a caries removal task.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's like a total of 6 tasks that they evaluate in
Perfect.
exam.
Understandable. So you said that there are academies over there, there are institutions
Yeah.
over there that can help you prepare for this exam, right? Even for the
Yeah,
infection control part, even for the OSCE part, they do help you. Tell us a bit more about those.
that's right. Yes, so there are like couple of academies, like I myself, like I am preparing students every now and then for the exam as well. So I can give the link of my group to that as well. Other than that, you guys can like go on, search for the academies yourself as well. There are a lot of people, but just be sure when you are taking somebody's course, do some research of your own. And then the very first thing that I ask, like I don't like push anyone or force anyone to take my courses,
Yeah.
but I always suggest the candidates to just ask one question from every tutor, that if you are a qualified dentist here in Australia,
Yeah.
why aren't you practicing in a clinic and tutoring us?
Hmm. Yeah.
Because you will make heaps more money practicing as a dentist compared to just doing these ADC courses.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
they will just give you stupid reasons that, oh, I don't like clinical work over here, it's too hectic and things like that, you
Yeah,
know?
understandable. Yeah. All right. So we'll one thing that I forgot to ask you in the start before I started this. There's this
Mm-hmm.
aura around the ADC that while it's difficult to pass the exam, it's even difficult to get a seat for the exam or register for it, because unlike
Mm-hmm.
NBD for America, which takes place
Yeah.
like once a month or once in 2 months, ADC only takes place only a couple times of the year. So is it
Mm-hmm.
actually difficult to get a registration for the exam? What are your thoughts and experiences regarding this? Just say we
That
know
is
ORE
mhm,
only happens twice a year,
mhm.
so it's difficult to sit for the exam, register for the exam.
Right,
Is it the same thing for
right.
Australia or is it different?
That is an absolute myth, I would say.
Okay.
I never had any issues with my registration,
Right.
not even for part one, not even for part two. The thing is that the problem with the candidates is ADC is very generous. They open their bookings for 2 to 3 weeks,
Okay.
in which they allow the candidates to like fill in the fee and do everything, right?
Right.
Candidates themselves, they are so lazy. I always tell my candidates, people who are enrolled with me, that book on the very first day.
Yeah.
As soon as the booking opens, go for it. People, they are like, oh, I will, oh, there's still 2 weeks time, and sometimes they are like, they are trying to get in on, like, let's say if they've opened it for 20 days period, they are trying to book their exam in on the day 19.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, you
Yeah.
know.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it means because obviously it's like first come, first serve. So ADC is generous enough to give you a booking for 20 days.
Yeah.
So please, at least if not you are doing on the first day, at least try to do book on the second or the third day, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so if and yes, it's true. The ADC exam takes twice a year.
Hmm.
So first attempt is on March, and the second dates they usually open in September.
Okay.
So if you are like, so obviously you need to be efficient on your part, that if you are planning or if
Absolutely.
you are aiming on going for a September attempt,
Yeah.
go to their website, do your research,
Yeah.
see when they are opening the dates, because ADC is again generous enough to open the dates. Like, let's say if they are like booking for September, they are going to open the dates in May. So if
Okay.
you are thinking, yeah, so if you are thinking about sitting for September attempt, please be efficient enough to get your whole initial assessment done by April, so
Yeah.
that when the bookings open in May, you
Absolutely.
have everything ready and then you just go for it,
Go
you
for it.
know?
Perfect. Perfect. All right. So once you pass your ADC, actually, one more question regarding part one. What kind of questions should you expect? Should you expect straight away MCQ based questions, scenario based questions? This is a big question that kept coming up when we asked people. So
Yeah.
that's what they ask. What kind of question should they expect in part one, and how?
So
All right. Yeah. Never mind. Just how? What kind of questions
that's
should they expect?
that's fine. So in part one, you get scenario based questions.
Mm.
So it's like, let's say they will give you a whole scenario that, let's say that a patient comes in, he has a soreness in his mouth and he
Yeah.
has not been eating well and he is a smoker. And, you know, they're going to give you the whole dental history, medical history, everything in a scenario. Then they will start asking questions like, what do you think would be the most likely diagnosis? And then what investigations will you do? And then there will be a question like, what will be your management, first step of management? And obviously in ADC over here, you need to be like a very baseline dentist. So anything that you feel out of scope, don't be efficient enough and start marking, you know, very difficult, like, oh, I will perform the gum surgery or I will do a wisdom tooth extraction. No, you don't do that over here. You are referring it to a specialist. Okay. So that's where, like, it's like a critical thinking,
Perfect.
and clinically based questions are there, and you need to think like a fresh graduate who has just done his final year exam and is just going
All right,
up for the exam.
I completely understand. All right, so once a student has passed their part one, inshallah, passed their part two, then comes the next part, the difficult part of finding a job.
Yeah.
How does one go about it? What's the process of finding a job? Is it difficult to find a job or is it easier to find a
Mhm.
job? How can one person looking for a job go about looking for employment in Australia once he's gotten a
Okay, so that's really easy. So as soon as you clear your exam, you start going for the registration, because over here you get a license number and a provider's number. Other than this, because dentistry over here is very crucial,
Mhm.
So you need to get registered with the dental like security, like kind of, or insurance kind of, like there's a whole what should I say, like council,
Organization.
which is
Yeah, okay.
APRA.
Okay.
APRA is basically a registration for all the medical practitioners, and it deals with all the legalities of them issues, like suing and stuff like that. So you need to register with them, and then you need to clear your English test. So you either are going to give IELTS, or you are going to give a PTE exam.
All right.
For that is as well, some people, what they can do is they can still give IELTS, because IELTS is valid for 2 years and PT is not generally valid for 3 years.
Okay.
So while you are like preparing for part one, if you have time and funds, you can still give it in Pakistan while you are still there, if you are confident enough that you can clear within 3 years time the
Yeah.
part two as well. Okay. And then once all of this is done, you are going to receive an email from the Australian Dental Association that yes, you are a licensed dentist over here, and then you're going to start looking for the jobs.
Mhm.
What I normally suggest is that in the meantime, while you are still preparing for part two, because
Yeah.
part two is a tough exam, and communication and all the things that I'm telling you about. So I always tell people that go and start finding jobs as dental assistants,
Okay.
but don't work for more than 2 days. Like, get a casual job in a good dental clinic. Like, that's what I did myself as well, that I got into a dental clinic, and they were nice enough to just grant me just 2 days of the work,
Okay.
and that improved my infection control.
Yeah,
And I used to like observe my dentist, how she talks to the patients, and sometimes like there was a time when she even got sued by a patient.
absolutely.
So I was there to like at least witness what is she, like how she handled all of that,
But to get a dental assistant position, what should your visa status be? You can't be a foreign national, and you can't apply for a dental assistantship, right? You'll have to be a PR holder in Australia, or can you?
No,
Okay.
no, that's not at all true. The only person who cannot apply for an official job here is someone on tourist visa.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. As if you are coming here on a student visa, or if you are on some people are on their TRs, which is basically temporary residence. So people like these, they can still apply for their dental assistant jobs. In
Okay.
fact, there are a lot of dentists over here who can even sponsor you.
Yeah.
So I have seen a lot of people, what they do is they are like either on student visas or like things like that. And they talk to the dentist, or they have a good rapport with someone over here who can get them in a clinic. And the dentist, they sponsor them, they get them to sign a contract. And you need to work, however, for 2 years. And
True.
after that, if you are still working with the same employee, the employee, he can like nominate you to get a PR over here,
Yeah. All right. Understood.
right?
But someone who doesn't have a PR or doesn't have a nationality, how can they come and take the exam? Can they take the exam on a tourist visa?
Yes, you can. However, for people, there are like certain countries
Mhm.
who Australia doesn't grant tourist visa that easily. Like Pakistan, for example,
Yeah.
they don't like normally. Otherwise, you have to show a lot of funds that,
Yeah,
and
that's
then
true.
you have to show a return ticket. You know all the
Yeah,
procedure
yeah,
procedure of
absolutely.
tourist visa. However, as far as this is concerned, other than tourist visa, you can always come on the student visas.
Mhm.
So I know a lot of people, they either apply for the business accounting roles. So obviously, because when you're writing your COE, which is basically your like kind of, it's like a cover letter
Yeah.
in which you are telling the government that why are you actually wanting to come to Australia. So a friend of mine, she wrote in her COE that I'm already a qualified dentist from Philippines, but I want to start a business back home. So I'm coming here to study business, so that when I go back home, I can do it. Obviously, her intentions were to come here and do the ADC exam, but obviously
Yeah, yeah.
that's how the
No, I
process goes,
understand
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than this, you can even come over here and do the MPH program as well. So Masters in Public Health. However, you are not going to get a PR in MPH. There is no PR. Okay. It's not in the SOS list for the
Absolutely.
PR. Okay.
But that's
Same goes for dentist.
so that you can take the exams easily and be in Australia for a while
Yeah.
just to take the exams. Yeah, so
Yeah.
understood. That makes sense. So you've told about the job hunting process. T- Let's just talk about the ground realities of working in Australia. Yes, it's pretty famous that that dentists in Australia make a lot. But is it
Yeah.
difficult to survive as an international dentist, especially considering, as you said, you will be dealing with so many different kinds of patients? And what
Yeah.
are some things that dentists, international dentists coming to Australia must be wary of?
Okay. So as far as coming over here, settling in is concerned, obviously in start you will have time. You will have problem gelling in. Same was the case with me, like because like English was not my first language. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
there were times when obviously when people would be talking in clinic and I would like won't even understand
And their
because
accent
like
is pretty different as well. So
yes,
Australian
their
accent.
accent is the hardest to
Yeah,
understand. There were
that's
times when I
true.
actually asked my dentist, "I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. Can you repeat it? Can you repeat it?" And there were times when she would just like look at me like that, giving me a very thorough stern, and I was like, "I'm sorry, English is not my first language. I have problem understanding it." And then obviously every country has their own like slangs,
Yeah,
like
that's true.
their
That's true.
little jokes, and obviously it took me a while to understand all of that.
Absolutely.
However, once you get into the page and if the people are nice enough where you are working,
Yeah.
so they just like they help you a lot with that as well. My clinic people were very 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 nice to me and they helped me a lot,
Yeah.
even with the journey as well. I had I used to study at home and then I would have a list of questions every single day and I will go to the clinic, and once I was shutting everything down,
Yeah.
I would sit with my dentist and I will discuss everything with her. What would you do in this case? What would you do in that case? So
Perfect.
that also helps a lot. Yeah,
Perfect. So it depends a lot on where you're working, and it should be a supportive environment. That's
it
beautiful.
has to.
All right.
Yeah,
So once you've got into the clinic process, you're working as a dentist. What are the future prospects like in Australia once you start working? Like, how can you go for specialization? Can you go for
Mhm.
a master's or a residency? What's the how can what could you tell us about that?
Well, as far as this specialization and residencies are concerned, you can still do it while you're still just an overseas qualified dentist.
Okay.
However, even though if you can you can come here directly and you can directly enroll yourself in a postgraduate exam.
Hmm.
However, you are not going to be able to practice over here
Practice.
because you don't have the initial exam license to practice. Okay. So for that, anyhow, you can get a degree, but you won't be able to practice. For
Practice.
that, you would have to clear ADC.
Yeah.
So I always suggest people that clear the ADC first, work in a clinic at least for a couple of years, and then apply for a post graduation exam.
Yeah.
There are, however, very limited universities over here that offer post graduation. So the University of Sydney,
Yeah.
that's on top of the list. It is a very good university. So yeah, a lot. It does conduct a lot of post graduation like maxillofacial, periodontics, and or even orthodontics.
Hmm.
And then there's a university in Queensland that also conducts some of these post graduation courses. As far as MPH is concerned, there are a lot of universities that do conduct MPH program.
But
So
the
like
job market isn't good for public health in Australia, right? It's very bad. The job market once you're done with MPH.
yeah, you are not going to get any PR over here with the MPH program. No.
All right. So that's once again a very concise and to the point answer. One thing that readily comes up with the Australian or the Canadian license exams is where can you practice once you're done with licensing in Australia? Because there's people say that you can practice in the UK, or with the UK license you can practice in Australia or Canada. There's something regarding about this. There are rumors
That's it.
about this. Is this true or not?
Only a US dentist, not even a license, a dentist who has graduated from
I,
US, they would be able to. Otherwise, I have a lot of friends who have graduated from UK. They are still coming over here. They are giving the exams. There are a lot of people even in my course who are from UK, and they are doing it again. Even the people from New Zealand have yeah, people from New Zealand, they can also practice over here because
okay.
New Zealand and Australia, they have same exam.
Yeah.
Yeah. So New Zealand people and US people, they can practice in Australia.
Do you know any international dentists who are practicing in New Zealand? Any Pakistani dentists who are practicing in New Zealand?
No, at the moment, no. But I do know a lot of people who have cleared ADC exam and they are now like, yes, they are practicing in New Zealand, but I obviously am not in direct contact. They were either like, with my course or I just
All
like,
right, understood. All right. So honestly, you have a lot of knowledge about the ADC process. I'm completely blown away about the nitty-gritty details that you know about the ADC licensing process, and I'm sure you have right reason to. If you don't know about the process, then you can't help others, and you
exactly.
have to go through that process yourself. So kudos to you. It's amazing how much you know about this process. If someone like me, if someone like a fresh graduate from Pakistan today in 2023 wants to come to Australia and take the exam, what should the mindset of a young dentist be as of today?
Okay. So when you're coming over here, you are like a completely fresh person and you are just stepping in Australia. Be mindful of one thing, that leave everything behind. You should have one goal set in your mind, that you need to clear this exam. Okay. For that, definitely it is a very expensive exam. And when I tell this to a lot of people, they're like, oh, you are putting our morale down. No, I'm just stating facts.
Yeah,
Okay.
reality
It is
is.
a very, very expensive exam. It is going to cost you roughly, just the exam is going to cost you roughly around 30 to $40,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And then obviously when you're coming over here, visa and other things, they are like aside. I'm not even considering that money. Okay. So you need to keep that in mind. Secondly, when you will come over here, you would have to like find a job, getting settled over here and everything. And that's what I say. Try to go for your own field job, so that will help you in the exam as well. Okay. Secondly, it is a doable exam, but you need to be very determined. You cannot like go about, because I've seen a lot of people over here, they get distracted over here very easily. You cannot go out with your friends every night and party. You
yeah.
cannot waste your time over here. You need to give at least minimum of 8 to 9 hours of study, and then as closer to the exam you get, you need to invest more and more time, and you need to practice a lot, particularly for part 2. You need to have a very good stable study partner to practice those communication role plays,
Yeah.
and then you need to have a very good hand with your technicals as well, and time management obviously.
Absolutely. Actually, one thing that we missed about part two is that you have to have a home setup as well, right? Where you need to
Yes, yes.
practicing at home. You get the whole the system at home, and then you practice in
Yeah,
at your home, right? And that's a
yeah,
very all right, perfect.
that's right.
Um,
So
yeah,
for as far as the home setup is concerned, I can it obviously depends on your how much you can afford.
yeah,
Okay, so obviously there are things that are very expensive as well. There's like a website called as One Dental. I normally buy stuff from there. Other than that, there is like there you can buy a few of the stuff from eBay as well. However, what I always suggest is that buy secondhand stuff from someone who has just graduated, like cleared their part 2 exam. That will be heaps cheaper to you. And then like yeah, so that's what I normally suggest. And if you want, I can still give you the links, but I don't think that at this point it is that
yeah. Well,
important.
it comes way ahead. Right now, we'll
Yeah,
be adding the links to your group and some other few links. All right.
yeah.
With that, honestly, I'm pretty shocked about the amount of information that you gave in this 35 minutes. I'm actually pretty impressed because last time when I once I've interviewed Dr. Sara Zubair, who's from Pakistan, but she's a UK licensed dentist, and she also gave a very similar interview where in 35 minutes she summed up the whole ORE process brilliantly. And that is to this date our most watched episode on the Dental Talk. So I am 100% sure that this episode will also be
I
one of the most watched episodes on our platform.
I hope so too. I hope so too. And I'm
Incredible.
really hoping that it will be helpful for all the graduates
It will.
who are actually seeking for the ADC exam. Obviously, in just like a 30-minute time, I cannot cover every single detail.
Obviously.
And
Obviously.
obviously, but obviously, I honestly, this is like the major most portion. And yes, one more thing that a lot of people ask me is regarding accommodations over here and the job opportunities. So let me just like quickly summarize that as well. So as far as the job opportunities are concerned, if like you have come over here and you're working as a dental assistant, like with me, I already have a job ready in hand as a dentist
Yeah.
because I'm working as a dental assistant and they like me a lot. So obviously they are like, clear your exam and you can come and start practicing over here with us.
Yeah.
As if that is not the case with you, that is absolutely fine as well. What you can do is, there are a lot of, like, branches, or like, chains of dental practices. Like, there is a Pacific Smiles, and there are couple more who do take in fresh graduate dentists.
Mhm.
Secondly, I will strongly suggest that don't aim for bigger cities like Sydney and Melbourne,
Yeah.
because they are already super saturated and they already have their own fresh graduates. They
Yeah.
are not going to consider you that much. So, like, apply Australia wide.
Yeah.
And even if you are getting your job from a very like a far away
Far
city
away.
which is
Yeah.
considered
Small
a
city.
regional, go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
Once,
Yeah.
yeah, once you get your first job over here, after 6 months, you can easily change your job if you don't like it there. Just like spend 6 months
Yeah.
somehow, and then maybe you can like request a transfer or start applying for the jobs in Melbourne or Sydney if you like.
Perfect.
And then you can say, I've already worked here for 6 months, and they might still consider you. Okay.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Rutba. This was very informational. I'm sure everyone will enjoy this episode. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and from your preparation. I hope I wish you the best of luck and an advanced Eid Mubarak. And thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for taking time out.
Thank you. Either way, to you too.